Guys, welcome to the podcast, videocast, whatever it is. Me and Adam are going to be having a nice conversation today, a little bit of a catch up during quarantine. I'm Jordan, one of the coaches at Coachwright UK. This is Adam, one of my fellow coaches. We already know each other, but we don't know the full story behind America, and I don't really know Adam's full football and coaching experience. I only know a little bit, so it's just a little bit of a conversation just to get to know him a bit more, but also a really good insight on the transition between a player and a coach from my point of view, from Adam's point of view, and not just that, the transitioning, playing in a different country and coaching in a different country as well. So I've got a couple of questions for Adam. First of all, Adam, do you want to tell us all a little bit about yourself?
Hi guys, my name's Adam. I've worked for Coachwright about 2 years now, coming up in August. I lived in Kansas, in America for about 8 seasons. Went to university over there, did my bachelor's, got my master's, and I actually have a daughter who's 4 years old that's actually currently still lives over there. So I've pretty much made a life for myself. The only reason I'm really back in England right now is because my visa expired and I had to return home. I coached at every level other than D1, so D2, NAIA, and junior college. Obviously, D1 being the highest level that you can go to in collegiate level in America. So I think I was pretty experienced. Had a variety of different players that I worked with. Had players that were older than me. Oldest player that I worked with was probably 29 when I was 24. So different looking at people from different backgrounds and aspects in their life, and everybody reaching their own personal goals at a different time in their playing careers.
Brilliant. So you went over to Kansas, weren't it? How old were you when you went over to America?
I went over there when I was 18, so straight out of college. I was originally planning on going to Loughborough or Sheffield Hallam. They were my two universities in England that I was really on the books of going to. But a guy called Nigel Gleghorn, who was my football coach at South Stratford College in Altrincham, mentioned it to me. And obviously I wanted to do something different to my friends. So I had a good conversation with my parents, and with a bit of persuasion, I was able to convince them to let me fly the nest and go try and make it on my own, which I think I did well for almost a decade. It's just circumstances hit me where obviously I had to return back to England.
Yeah, that's a bit of a downer, really, and obviously you've done so well over there, no doubt. Well, I've never actually been over to America, but I bet it's just a different world over there. I had something similar with my college where I was playing in Leeds. I had a scholarship at Farsley Celtic, who are a semi-professional football club out in Leeds, and I was kind of the same. At 16, I left my school in Salford, and I went to college away from where I lived. So I was travelling like an hour and a half some mornings, so like 6 o'clock in the morning, all the way to Leeds to get to college for 9. And I was the same, really. I was training full-time, playing in the week, studying full-time as well. But we actually had a sports recruitment agency that was linked up to America. They were the same, Sports Recruiting USA. And I don't know if they're still going about now, actually. But I had the same opportunity where they video your games, they pick out your best bits, and then they send it over. Is that right?
Yeah. You make a highlight film, and then the colleges then look at that and see if you're a good fit for their program. They look at your grades to see if you have a good academic background, because you need at least a 2.0 to a 2.5 to be able to play, which is C's across every subject, which I didn't think was that difficult compared to the academics in England. I thought the academics over there wasn't as tough. To be honest, maybe that's just because of the subject that I chose to teach. Obviously, if I went to do physics or biology, I reckon.
What did you choose when you were over there?
I did health and physical education, so basically training to be obviously a sports teacher, sports coach,
sports coach in a sense.
Down that kind of line of work.
Yeah, ours was kind of similar. They didn't really just let anyone and everyone give it a go, because obviously it's not free service, is it? You've got to pay for the service. I was really interested in going, and it was something that I thought long and hard about, and I had my mind set on it. I was like, yeah, right, I want to go over there, because I believed in my abilities, like no doubt you believed in yours, that you could make it over there. I was back myself completely. But obviously it came down to, is it a three-way system where you get a full ride if you're like top of the level, you get everything paid for. You get a part-time ride, don't you, where it's like you either pay for digs or you books and you pay the other half.
Yeah.
And then there's the lowest one where you have to pay everything. And I think when I gave it to my mum, I think I was 18 at the time, I give her the booklet. She seen £3,000, which was for the full year, for the full year, I think it might have been. And she was like, "Nah, you're not going." So I was like, "It's good."
Yeah, well, it breaks up depending on how good, obviously, your athletic ability is with your academic ability. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, I did well in school. I was doing well in college, and like like I said, they didn't just give it to anyone. It was, if you were good enough and they thought they could get you into a college, then they'll take that chance on you, because obviously, don't it go off the stats of how many of these agencies can actually get into a college as well?
Well, they have pre-assessment trials, so obviously they don't guarantee every single person a scholarship. So say 50 people decide that they want to go to America, so they'll all sign up to one agency, and then they will play in various games, a couple of fitness tests, and they'll make sure that you're at a certain standard, because everybody has their own contacts and links and colleges that they'll send you to first. So they want to make sure that you meet the criteria of those schools. Obviously, then they reject people if they don't think you're good enough and you're not going to be able to make.
So it's a pretty brutal process, then, isn't it? It's just like it's like a process of an academy player all over again.
Yeah,
it's a brutal process. And what was it actually like? This is one of my questions, really. What was your experience as a player in America?
Very different. I went to at the time when I was coming out of college, I wanted to spend the last couple of months during the summer with the people that I knew I wasn't going to see for at least a year. I didn't come home till the summer, to the very summer after. So for a whole year, I managed to stay out there for the first year. So the first summer that I was about to head out in 2010, I decided to, I wanted to hang out with my friends and my family and make sure that I was able to see these people. Whereas some people, they studied for an exam, and obviously it's called the SAT exam. And if I would have took that, I could have been able to go to bigger, probably better schools. But I decided that, I didn't want to pay for the exam. That's number one. It's not cheap, and if I didn't do well, then it really, really affects the offers that I got already. So I decided to not take that exam, and then I had to go into some serious conversations with the people that were trying to send me out. I was like, well, is there any ways of me being able to get out there without having to take that exam? And they offered me 2 different junior colleges, which is a 2-year university. You go out there and get your associate's degree, which then after those 2 years you can transfer to any 4-year, which is obviously I could go D1 all the way down to NAIA, depending on where people felt that I fitted into the mold. So I did that for my first 2 years. Obviously, the team that I went to, we did okay the first year, struggled the second year.
What team did you end up choosing? I mean, for 18 years old, that's a huge decision to set off on that journey on your own. It must have took a lot. I mean, you talk about people have to think about number one, which is yourself, is absolutely 100%. But leaving your friends and your family, that must have been.
Well, it's kind of funny that we're having this conversation now because of the kind of situation that the country is going through, this lockdown, this pandemic. I believe the hardest part about it was obviously your mental toughness. Like everything's going well. I mean, you don't miss anybody when you're winning. When everything's like hunky dory and the roses are red, everything's going your way. You're not thinking about anything else. You're thinking about getting back on the pitch, carrying on with your success, winning games. But the hardest part for me was when you're losing.
I think that the hardest, from my point of view, obviously I've not been out there, but I think if I was to go and imagine myself in that situation, I think the hardest bit would be physically leaving and actually going. I think once you're out there, you'd probably be all right, wouldn't you? Because you're going to make friends, you're going to have teammates, you're going to have people around you.
Yeah, like I say, like once I got out there, obviously I was fine. Obviously pre-season's 2 weeks, hardcore three training sessions a day. Obviously that some of the weather conditions, I mean the turf alone, because we played on AstroTurf, was 100 degrees at some time of the day that we were having to play on. So that kind of took its toll, but I wasn't thinking about home really at all until the kind of where we went through our little bit of a bad spell where we lost maybe 2 in a row, where we couldn't really, we struggled to score and create opportunities. When the success rate wasn't that high, that's when you kind of, you look and evaluate yourself and you really take it on the chin and go, well, have I now made the right decision? What if I would have stayed in England? Would things have been different? And that's the kind of areas in my career out there that was when I was really looking back at myself and going, I know I've made the right decision, and I kind of had to reevaluate my frame of mind and go, well, how can we, get out of this rut and get us back onto the winning path, really.
And what was the difference as a player over there? Obviously, in England, it's a pretty tough game. It's a pretty brutal game, to be honest. Anyway, football, but in England, it's a very high intensity game. In terms of the football, the style of coaching, and obviously your surroundings, your equipment, your training equipment. What was the difference between England and America?
Well, the difference in as far as playing was the different nationalities. I believe, being in England 20 years of my life, let's say, I wasn't, exposed to playing with people from a variety of different countries. I was just playing with English players, but them being from different parts of the UK was probably where the level and how broad the playing style kind of got. Whereas over there, I was playing with Germans, I was playing with Ghanaians, I was playing with Nigerians.
That's pretty surprising, because I would have just thought there'd have been a couple of maybe Europeans, and including yourself in English, but majority American.
Well, most squads, they had Americans, but they didn't have that many. My team had 3 Americans probably that got playing time out of a squad of 25, which is crazy. I mean, most schools, obviously I was fortunate at my college. I was on one of the better packages, but they look at your, obviously they look at your grades, but they look at your athletic ability. And some players they bring into the squad because they're good academically, but they're not that good athletically. So the money that they're paying extra helps fund one of the good players that's going to get you to obviously that national championship that everybody wanted to get to.
So it balances itself out in a sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that was one of the hardest things. I mean, obviously, you had your own style of play within a match. I mean, we played 4-2-3-1. We were a wing attacking team, got the ball wide into our number 10, and we went on from there. Whereas
And in terms of quality of coaching and management, what was your manager like, and his style of coaching and his staff around him?
well, most it's mainly a head coach and an assistant coach. The assistant coach was really, really good at the football side of things. He was the kind of mastermind behind the way that we played, the style of play that we played. The head coach, obviously, he was there obviously for a reason. He got us, he sold us the dream. He got us the money and the packages, and he did all the business kind of side of things. So obviously, if you integrate the two together, I think it worked. It worked really well because they both understood their roles and responsibilities. Whereas in England, I think the head coach, they kind of try and dip their hands in all the ponds. So obviously, they want to hand in the football, they want to hand in the business, they want to hand in the fitness. Whereas the two coaches there, obviously, they're both working towards the same goal, but they have their own roles and responsibilities that hopefully by the end of the season that they've both integrated to be able to make you reach the same goal.
Yeah. So moving on from your playing days, you were in America for, was it as a player? You played, was it 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, 4 years.
4 years, and what was the furthest you got in 4 years? The playoffs.
Got to the playoff final. The way our conference ran, obviously you had about 10 or 11 teams in it. You play everybody once. So if you played a team at home 1 year, you play them away the next season. That's just how it went.
Fair enough. In terms of obviously, you had a roster? Was it the end of every season, or where Major League Soccer clubs could pick out the best players?
Yeah, well, obviously, depending on your America, they're really big on your statistics. So colleges obviously look at your statistics during season, and obviously
does that depend on the college, or does that depend on the player?
That depends on the player. I mean, obviously, but for my position, for example, I'm not picking up that many statistics apart from a clean sheet or a goal that I might score off a set piece. Playing centre back, it's hard to get recognised and stuff. And obviously, I was 5'10", 5'11", and I wasn't that fast. So being able to read the game,
not that fast now, mate.
Being able to read the game, you're not going to get a stat for that. So without them being there and assessing your ability in the stands, it's hard to get recognised, because most foreigners, they're going over there because they've not been able to make it in their home country, so they've gone over to America and they've gone, new season, new me. I want to try and make it in this country now, but you think about that. I mean, 10 foreigners on one school times that by 1,000. Think about how many spaces. There's not that many spaces. So
fair enough.
Again,
Well, okay. So we'll move on to your coaching experience out there. How did you actually come about being able to coach out there, getting a job as a coach? How did all that come about?
Well, the funniest thing was, so after I got done, I was done with my season. Obviously, the football season's August to November, December. So if you're playing really, really well in November, you're still playing. But if you've not done very well, you've ended. And obviously that's it for that season. Well, for the fall season, but that's the main competitive season. There is a spring season, but that's where obviously you're doing more fitness to get ready for the next season. But when I was coming into the spring season, and obviously I just found out my girlfriend was pregnant. So obviously I was emailing schools, but schools close enough to where I could stay local to be able to provide for my family and stuff. So I was able to just email around, and I was like, look, I'll come to you and work for free for a year just to get me into the coaching kind of side of things. And I emailed about 50 schools. I got one yes. So
Wow.
yeah, and that was Stirling College, which was obviously in the same conference that we were. So I went over there, which was about an hour drive from where I was at, currently living. And I worked in a mailroom, just with a machine. I was like putting stamps on envelopes. That's what I was making my money during the 6 to 10 in the morning or whatever. Go to football training and then come back in the evening from like 5 to 9.
So you did a full year free whilst working in mailroom.
Yeah, so I because obviously the school could have
Now
paid.
I didn't know this about you. This is the first time I've heard about this. You've actually never told me this.
Yeah, so that's I mean, being 18, that's probably
So
not
you did a
my
full
first,
year just to get your foot in the door.
yeah,
Full year free, and you were working a crappy little job in a mailroom just to get your foot in the door at college.
just to get my
Hey,
foot.
that's brilliant. I love that. That's quality.
Yeah, I mean, it was the most boring job I think I've ever had, but it's probably the first proper
Get
job.
where you want to be, you've got to make sacrifices, haven't you? And clearly, you made a sacrifice. Quality, mate. Love it. So, and when did you come on full time? Did you get Did you get a full time job with that Stirling College?
Yeah, that was Stirling College. So I did a 1 year there. But every time you graduate from university over there, you get a 1 year work visa, called OPT. So that allows you to be able to stay and work, and you can work up to about 40 hours a week. So that allows you to really help. That costs about $400 to get.
So what team were you coaching? Was that the women's team?
I was on the men's at Stirling, and then after Stirling, I came to Newman University, which I did the men's again. I did the men's for 2 years there, and obviously we were really good at Newman. You know, we could have done a little bit better, but the teams that we were playing in the conference were highly ranked in the nation. That was Division 2, so that's obviously a step up. At Stirling at NAIA, so obviously that's a huge step up then to Division 2.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah, so I went to do my master's degree as well as continue my coaching, because I was obviously then after Stirling reaching out to all these other coaches, but I didn't want to go too far afield, which is Newman's in Wichita, Kansas, which obviously my daughter's family and obviously her mum are all from that city, so that worked out perfectly for me to be able to stay close and continue, coaching football. So I went out there and yeah, we did well. Got to the conference semi-final both years and lost to the best team that got to the national tournament both years. So
Fair enough. Can't really argue with that then, can you? And what was the difference between coaching over there? Obviously, when you were in England, I don't know whether you coach, but from your perspective now as a coach in England to from when you coached in America, what's the difference?
Well, especially at grassroots. Grassroots is a bit difficult, and I don't really agree with the ethical side of it. Obviously, if people obviously watching this podcast videocast will know me that I'm kind of an honest coach, and it doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're 7, whether you're 18. Things can always be improved, and if I don't think you're putting as much effort into the exercise that you could be, or your focus is off, I will tell you. I don't believe that you should wrap people in bubble wrap, and help them coast along the way.
Yeah, I do agree. I agree with that about wrapping players in bubble wrap. I don't know if they did it in America, but there's certainly in England it's definitely different. I'd assume.
Yeah, because in America, especially at grassroots, participation is massive.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say about the way they do it in America. They don't actually have academies for professional teams there, do they?
Yeah, they do. They have MLS academies.
But don't they wait until the university roster, in order to sort out players going to certain clubs?
Well, they have club soccer, which is like, you know, what Coachwright is. They have those kind of firms and associations, but a lot of the club soccer is affiliations. So they'll pay. So say obviously Sporting Kansas City was the closest MLS team to where I was. So they'd have say 100, 150 people pay like a membership fee to be affiliated with Sporting. So
Yeah.
have so many.
And what I really want to know more of is, do you think the way they do it in America compared to England is better or worse? Because obviously we have a lot of academies in England. Each professional team has an academy, and the process they go through is obviously it's a very tough process in order to get to where you want to be. If you will look at the Premier League, you look at the players in the Premier League, how many players actually go through that process and make it to the Premier League or make it to that first team?
The process in England is definitely better than the process at that kind of club level, grassroots level in America. Obviously, it's a bit more ruthless, but I think it molds you and defines you and makes you a better human on and off the pitch. Whereas in America, like I was saying, it's all about participation at the early.
Yeah, because I feel like in America it's all a little bit late.
Yeah,
it's all
getting people into exercising, which is great, but they're all about participation. Next time will be better. Whereas I believe, and the way that England shaped up, that you try and do it right, and do it the best you can the first time, and you're more likely then to succeed. Which I think that's slowly starting to change. In my 8 years over there, that's how it was at the beginning, and it's slowly starting to evolve and get better. Still got a long way to come, but it's on the right track to getting the same philosophy that the English style is known for.
Yeah, well, good. It's good to hear that. Good to hear you making progress. I see you coach anyway. I can tell you've made progress from when you first started, because I think when you came over here, you started working for us more or less straight off the bat of getting into England, really. But you definitely see a process in yourself and in the way you coach. What was the transition like for you coming from America coaching to England? Was it difficult, or did you find it? Obviously, I understand over there you were working with men, you were working with women, you were working with older people. But in the same scenario, what was the biggest thing for you? What was the hardest thing to change and to adapt to? Not even just as a coach, though, as a person, because you've been over there nearly 10 years. I hear phrases that you say that I would never ever say. So for you, as a coach and as a person, what was the biggest transition?
Well, definitely the biggest transition was the age. I was able to speak and phrase stuff in a certain way to the older athletes that I'm not able to do with children and younger athletes. So that was the biggest thing. Having to bite my tongue a little bit more and be a bit more patient. That was definitely the biggest challenge, and I think I'm definitely starting to, come round to.
Yeah, I agree with you that one. I agree with you on that one.
About a month and a half, 2 months, and I'm not perfect at the minute, but that's definitely the way. But I get away with it a little bit because at least people know that I'm passionate, and obviously the things I do, I'm trying to help their kids succeed. As far as another difficult one was the overall transition. I didn't really understand how many different layers, of kind of a coach you had to be.
Yeah, because I feel like as a coach, you're not just a coach. You're more than that. People see you as father figures, not people that might not have that role model at home. You're a role model, you're a father figure, you're a big brother, you're all these kind of people, and identities molded together. You've got to be, like you were saying before, you don't like wrapping people up in bubble wrap, you don't believe in it. sometimes, yeah, you've got to be tough, but sometimes someone needs, especially a kid, needs an arm around the shoulder, and I feel like it depends on the player.
Yeah, no, it does. And that's another thing. Being able to obviously people's confidence is kind of up and down, and that's the biggest thing that you need to get out of your players is they have to be able to, and they have to be able to and want to run through a wall for you. If they don't feel like that before a game, you shouting and harassing them during a match isn't going to do anything. You've got to be able to, you've got to knock them down a peg or two to start with, but you have to build them up, and they have to be full of confidence going into competitive matches. That's just a given, in my opinion.
Yeah, it all depends on obviously what kind of coach you are as well, but not just the way the player reacts and how they react in different ways. And I feel like you pick that up the more time you spend with those players.
Yeah, 100%. When I went to my last school, Northwest Kansas Technical Junior College, I was having to, I was doing men and women, so my job load then obviously increased. I was having to recruit for men and women's teams. I was having over at those universities, I was doing quite a lot of the football, so having to plan 2 sessions a day for an hour and a half each day. I was even a bus driver. I remember taking the girls' team. We were playing the best team in the conference. Hadn't lost at home in 5 years. So we went. So we drove up there, and obviously our head coach was was suspended for that game. He got sent off the game before. So I had to take them out. I was now the head coach for that game, and we had to take the athletic director. We had to drive these 2 vans, and it was about 3.5 hours. So I'm having to drive a bus with about 15 girls in, and I'm like, I didn't have a driver's license in England before I left. I'd have a driving license for about maybe 7-8 months in the country, having to drive down this. Luckily it was a straight road, so I couldn't really go wrong. So we went down there, and we obviously then we got about halfway, and one of the buses broke down. So we then had to, I had to then double my bus, get 30 girls into this little bus, and we carried on driving, and we got there.
Is that not a little bit illegal over there?
Yeah, I let them start up, and then we got there, and then obviously we played the game of our lives, and beat the team, handed them their first loss, beat them 3-0. We had a Brazilian centre forward called Adriana that was MVP of the conference, scored about 26 goals. She's now at a D1 university, and that just shows the kind of level that she was playing at. But yeah, that just is another layer of the kind of coaching. That's just another avenue that I had to step up and do. I wasn't comfortable in being able to do that.
I mean, I still get it now. There's days where I still feel uncomfortable as a coach, even though I've been doing it since I was 16. I'm still 23. I'm still only young. I'm always learning. Every session you learn. But I definitely have days where I'm still feeling uncomfortable and like, I need to step up to the plate. And yeah, it's difficult because you've got to come out your comfort zone, and obviously it's not nice to come out of your comfort zone, but it's what makes you a better coach and makes you as a person.
Just the next step obviously in this country is to get my next goalkeeping badge, get my UEFA B in this country. If I was in America, I was working through my licenses over there. Obviously, USSF A license is the best. F is the worst, and obviously you go up. And I got to about my D license over there. But the difference in that kind of aspect is, if I had the money and was able to travel to a different part of the country and go take that and go do that license, I'm able to. I'm able to go do it. And obviously, then I can get up the system as quickly as I feel fit. Obviously, you have to have each license for a certain amount of time. So this license I'm on right now, I had to have for a year before I can get the next license. And obviously,
you can't just do it one after the other.
That's the same.
It was that easy though.
Yeah, exactly. That's the same in England. But the difference is, which I think England needs to adopt from America is, if you have the right amount of experience, and you have the money to be able to do the license, it shouldn't matter what part of the country it's in. You should be able to go, and.
I mean, we've had these conversations before, very regular, because we're both trying to do that same badge. We're both trying to do that UEFA B, and obviously you've got a lot more experience than me. But I feel like if you've had maybe 5 or more years of experience in a certain setting, you should be able to do that. Because in my eyes, as a coach, I'm still young. I'm still maybe even a little bit inexperienced, but I'm enthusiastic. I'm eager to learn. I want to do that UEFA B. And I think if you look at other countries, we have a very low percentage of UEFA B coaches.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but the biggest excuse that they've got to me at the minute is they're on backtrack. They haven't got enough. They haven't got enough.
I think we applied for the same course because I got the same email.
Yeah,
was it in Wales? Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Actually. Yeah. We were on the same course. It's the same one. So, right. Anyway, obviously you started as a player in America. You then progressed to become a coach because obviously he wasn't that talented as a player. No, but on a serious note, you are a pretty decent player. You can do bits. How was it for you coming back to England? Did you attempt to get back into a team as a player, or were you set instead that you wanted to be a coach and you wasn't really fussed about playing anymore?
Obviously, no. Once I got into the coaching kind of side of things over there, I was never really looking at playing again at the highest level. Obviously.
Why is that though? Why do you think that is?
Into one basket, just because of my age. It was very, very difficult to get into it and make a significant amount of money at the level that I was at. So I kind of said, you know what, I'd die for football. I love football that much. I would do anything to be a part of the game, and that's just another avenue that I fell in love with as soon as I started to become involved in it. So I decided to then obviously put my sole focus into coaching, and I think I've done a pretty good job of it right now. Just the biggest thing was for me, I mean, I've built so many contacts in America, like so many contacts, and now coming back here, I don't have those contacts. Can't really use those contacts to my advantage, so I'm having to start again. And I'm getting there, but it's nowhere near the level that I was able to get those kind of contacts at in America.
It must be difficult coming from a university, like a big college, like assisting the men's, assisting the women's team. You've got such an important role within that club and within that university, and coming back here and having to start all over again. It's
yeah. But I'm on the mend. I've started a little football business on the side along Coach Right called Morlow's Private Clinic. I'm trying to build that and build my personal, individual, small group reputation up, which hopefully that'll start to do once this lockdown and pandemic's over. So that's just another aspect. I'm starting a goalkeeper clinic on a Friday night at 6:30.
It's doing really, really well. It's doing very well.
I'm starting to add a few things that I didn't have over in America, just trying to get different kind of avenues and adapt.
I suppose with it being a different setting and a different field as well, it's not what we're doing at Coach Right isn't like the university. It's something different that you've had to adapt to, and you've obviously had to change how you are as a person and as a coach, and really what you're doing in your coaching as well, like your goalkeeping sessions and one-to-ones, etc., etc.
Yeah, that's just the biggest thing is I want to get my goalkeeper session to about 15 to 20 kids. I brought in an assistant called Charlie, who's really, really helping me push that session, and he's a class goalkeeper, was at Burnley, so he's helping me build that class and the criteria that I need for people to be admitted onto that session.
I've seen this session on a Friday. Obviously, I do the girls in the freestyle next to it. It's a very intense session. So if anyone wants to get involved, hit him up, because it is an intense goalkeeping session. Like he said, he's got Charlie down there, very, very good goalkeeper, played for Burnley, and this guy knows what he's talking about as well.
But yeah, I mean, we can't stress it enough that, our boss, has helped us get to the level that we're kind of at, and obviously Coach Wright is a great foundation, a great company to work for in England. Gaz and Rob both have UEFA B qualifications, so we're learning from two great coaches. So these sessions that reach every kind of ability, every age group. We're trying to offer more sessions for people from 16 to 18. That's kind of the avenue that we don't yet have, but we're looking to attain. But being able to pass on my knowledge and integrate it with the knowledge that Gaz has and you have and Rob have, it's great, because we're all kind of different, but we all offer something. We all bring something to the table.
Yeah, and I feel like, obviously, with the team that we've got now, it's a fantastic team. We've got very experienced individuals as playing goals. Obviously, you've played at a very good level. I play at a decent level. Gaz and Rob, don't know what Rob's playing. We'll have to do one with Rob, because I've never seen Rob play. But Gaz has played at a good standard as well. And obviously, coaching-wise, they've both coached at academy levels. You've coached at university level, but in America would be classed as an academy level in a sense. And I'm yet to get to that point, but I'm hoping one day I will get there. Just got to sort my football out first. Got to sort my playing days out first. Yeah. But no, it's good to see from your side the transition of you as a player over in America, and not just a player, but as a coach as well, and bringing your knowledge over here for us to pass on to like other people like myself. Like, I remember when you did your first session on a Saturday. It was a very basic session with a beginner group, but it was effective, and I seen it and I was like, wow, that is such an easy session, but it is so effective. And I think I stole it and I used it as my next session. I think it was receiving on the back foot.
Yeah.
It was a good session, mate. It was a good session. So yeah, it's nice to hear a little bit more about your playing and your coaching experience as well, because I've obviously only heard bits and bobs.
And we'll definitely have to do this again. Once the video's uploaded, guys, if there's any topics in football that you'd like us to cover, please drop us a message, a comment, and we'd happily, discuss your topic. We could even bring you on as a special guest.
We'll definitely be getting more guests in. I think we'll go around the group that we have already first, focus on Gaz as a player and as a coach, Rob's coaching experience. He's got some great stories, like the likes of Paul, like working at United and stuff. Good stories. And obviously we'll do one with myself as well. So if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you give it a like, you share our video cast, give it a like, you give it a share, and hopefully we will see you again soon.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Cheers. Bye.